You're listening to The Upland Rookie, a podcast presented by Upland Brits. Welcome to episode number 5 of the Upland Rookie podcast. I'm your host, Will Larson, and as always, this is presented by Upland Brits. Well, today we sit down with my good buddy, Matthew Davis of Final Rise Gear. Now, we get into a beautiful tom that he shot in California. I know turkey hunting is still open in a lot of places around the country. Hopefully, you guys are getting out there and chasing some turkey. We also talk about some big game pursuits that Matt is after, as well as upland bird hunting. We get into his 2 GSPs, or German short-hair pointers, as well as his love, or I guess you could say addiction, to chasing chukar. I want to thank Eukanuba Premium Performance Dog Food. With Eukanuba, peak performance is what happens when a dog's natural athletic ability is shaped by training and unleashed by nutritional science. Check them out and learn a whole lot more at eukanubasportingdog.com. And you all know what time it is. Time for a listener question. Justin S. Carr on Instagram writes in, I'm really trying to figure out the major differences between the 2 Brittany breeds. Well, as you maybe all know, I have one of each. I have an AB, or an American Brittany, or an EB, my Épagneul Breton, who's the younger one. And yes, I will say Épagneul Breton. I think it's cool to say it's the original name of the breed, and so I enjoy saying it, but I will shorten it to EB sometimes throughout. I'm still figuring it out. I'm still figuring out major differences. I hear different things about ranges and all that. To get back to the basics first, they're very similar in a lot of temperament ways. Great in the house, great with my kids, on, off switch, all that good stuff. But I'll also say, I think a lot of that can be breeding as well, between the parents and the grandparents and that line of dogs you're looking at. So a lot of people I hear say, oh, the EBs work a lot closer and the ABs work a lot further. Well, sure, I think that is true and maybe a good general statement, but I think it also is going to depend on the breeding. I know when I was talking to the breeder picking out Gunner, second dog, I knew a lot more questions to ask. I knew more what I was looking for, and so range was one of them. I liked Gage's range. Gage is about, 50 to 200 yards. He has a really big range, just kind of depending where I'll let him go. So Gunner, I wanted that further range. I'm really wanting to hunt more prairie grouse and big country areas. And so I wanted a dog with a little bit bigger range, not a 500-600 yard dog. So when I was talking to the breeder, we talked about that, and he was able to kind of walk me through. And he had pairings of dogs and said, hey, these dogs, if you go this route, are going to be that maybe 300, 400, 500 yard dogs if you want. Or this pairing is going to be the 100, 200, 300 yard dogs if you want. So they were able to kind of steer me in range, because I think that really depends on the line of dog, but also training. Training is going to be a huge factor in range. So don't get hung up on if you hear someone say, oh, the EBs are so much closer working and the ABs are not. Yes and no. It's just really going to depend on the breeding, but also the training. Look-wise differences, I mean, you can see pretty clearly. The ABs are lankier, longer, taller dogs. The EBs are shorter, stockier, a little bit blockier dogs, especially in the face and the little bit deeper chest. They're going to be shorter as well. The EBs also excuse me, the EBs also have a black nose compared to the ABs, which have that kind of pinkish nose. So that's a pretty cool and easy way to differentiate the two dogs as well. Gunner, I'll say, so Gunner's my EB. Great in the house. I would say he's a little bit calmer than Gage was at his age. I would say in the house. I mean, he can really turn it off. And again, I'm trying to remember how Gage was at that age. So I mean that might be a difference, but that could vary in dog as well. Last thing I was going to mention, I didn't really hunt Gunner. I didn't hunt him really at all. I got him in September of last year. So he was a young pup. I just let him be a pup, have fun, low pressure, low expectations. Going into this season, I'm so excited to really see what he can put together, see his temperament and style and range and quartering and a lot of those things. So I think I'll have a lot better understanding. So if you ask me this question next year, like a year from now, I would have a lot better idea. I'll have more time with Gunner, get to see him through his first season and just see what he can do. Hey buddy, I got Gage climbing up on my lap right now. I feel like I was going to say one more thing, but no, great question, Justin. If anyone has a question or would like me to just address something on the podcast, write in a listener question, make it fun, long, short, whatever it might be. Would love to get it on here, give you a little shout out, and just helps break up the episode a little bit. The last thing I was going to say, please leave a rate and review, a written review on Apple Podcasts. I can't just emphasize enough the importance and the crazy algorithms that Apple Podcasts especially has. The more written reviews, the more 5-star ratings, it's going to push this podcast up higher in the ratings and rankings, I guess. So when someone is looking for a podcast and they type in Upland podcast or bird dogs or whatever it might be, this podcast is going to be higher up on that list, more visible to hunters and bird dog lovers just like yourself. So do me a favor, leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And without any further ado, I hope you enjoy this episode with my buddy Matt Davis of Final Rise.
Yeah,
you had a house fall through, didn't you, a while back?
2 houses fall through, but it ended up being a giant blessing in disguise, man. So I'm actually in the house that I grew up in.
Oh, no way.
I bought the house that I grew up in.
No way. That is wild.
Which is really weird. It's cool.
Did you know who lived there before, or how'd that work out?
So my dad and my grandpa back in the early 90s both built houses next to each other. They bought 10-acre parcels, dead end road, built houses right next to each other. So my grandparents have since passed. My dad remodeled my grandparents' house and moved into there, and I just bought this house from my dad.
Oh my gosh, dude, that is crazy.
And it was one of those things, man, where I just didn't think it was going to happen. Unfortunately, where I grew up has grown a lot. It used to be just this little podunk, tiny little farm town.
Sure.
And it's definitely boomed. And so the cost of living here is substantially, it's increased quite a bit. And so
I'm sure
my dad was kind enough to, it's like, well, let's figure something out.
Yeah. So, dude, that's so awesome. What a blessing.
Oh,
so put us on a map real quick. Where are you? Where are you at?
So I am in Heber City, Utah, which is about an hour south of Salt Lake and about 20 minutes south of Park City. If people know where either of those places are, those are usually the two.
Okay, I know Park City. Yeah.
Yep. So I live just south of there.
Okay.
First town you would run into if you kept driving south from Park City.
Gotcha. Okay. Being in Utah, so I'm a big mountain biker. Are you into mountain biking at all, or?
You know, I'm not. I'm a very accident prone individual. So I know for a fact I'd have multiple broken collarbones.
Okay.
I'd be disformed, and I already have too many hobbies as it is.
Yeah. You got to stay in one piece.
I try to.
I get it, man. So just tell us a quick overview. Like, who are you? Just give us a quick snapshot. Who is Matt Davis?
Yeah. I'm Matt Davis, born and raised here in the house I'm living in, in Utah, central Utah area. Grew up hunting, fishing, doing everything outdoors. I'm truly blessed to live where I do because it doesn't matter which direction I leave the valley. There's, blue ribbon fisheries. Any way I go, I can be hunting grouse 5 minutes from my house. I can be hunting elk 10, 15 minutes from my house. I mean, I can go hop in a tree stand, hunt for a couple hours, run home and come to work. So it's like, if being or having, I guess, the hobbies that I do, I'm so lucky to live where I live. And my more of my professional background has been straight up in the outdoor hunting space. I'm only 30 years old, so I'm not young, but I'm not old. I guess I am young. But worked for a company called Hoyt Archery for about 6 years.
I used to have one of their bow.
Yep. And was there for about 6 years. And I'm actually currently with a company called Mountain Ops, which is also based out of here in Utah, and currently employed with those guys as well. That's my 9 to 5, but it's a phenomenal job. And and then I've got Final Rise going on, and that's something we're about a year and a half into that as far as officially being a business, actually selling the vests and doing all that fun stuff. So that's me in a nutshell.
Dude, that's awesome. We're definitely going to talk Final Rise here in a little bit. But I got to say, I am super jealous of where you live. You are so lucky. 15, 20 minutes, go hunt elk, grouse, whatever you need to. That's pretty awesome.
It's, right out my fields here. I don't know if you're a waterfowler. I love
a little bit.
I love waterfowling, but I love hunting geese.
Okay.
And this past year, I think I shot 4 or 5 limits just in the field right behind my house. I'm looking at it right here. There's a lot of residential geese, and then they have an urban, what they call it, an urban season that basically tapers off after the general season ends, just because a lot of the geese concentrate
that's awesome
in certain areas. And so I get a bang on them a little bit.
That's really cool.
My backyard.
Yeah, that's great. Oh, so lucky. I'll waterfowl a couple times a year with some buddies of mine. And this year we just went out to Nebraska and chased snow geese for the first time. And that was, oh my gosh, that was an experience. We weren't super successful. The first day it was decent, but every day after that, the weather got crazy. A lot of the birds moved up to North Dakota at that point.
Yep.
So it was still a blast, but man, it left me wanting more, but also it left me wanting to come home.
when waterfowling sucks, it sucks.
Yeah.
And when it's good, it's awesome.
Exactly. All right. So I got to ask you this question. I was scrolling through Instagram. It's probably a month back, and my heart about stopped when I saw you had your Franke Instinct tore apart. And it looks like you took a belt sander or something to this Franke. What happened, and what did you do?
So I one of the very first over-under shotguns that I bought quite a few years ago. The first year that Franke came out with their Instinct, I bought one in a 20 gauge, and that gun just fits me extremely well. Now I'm in Browning country. Utah is definitely buckmark country. Got a lot of good friends that work there. Great company, and that is by far my preferred gun. I own a lot of them.
Sure.
But those Frankes fit me really good. Anyways, when I was getting into sub gauges, tinkering around with 16s and 28s, and I'll say I was doing this before it was a cool thing to do. I'm just kidding. I'm sure guys are like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was kind of getting into that, and so I thought, well, hey, this 20 gauge fits me really well. I know I can buy one in a 28 and have a gun that fits me. I knew the specs of it, again, fit me perfectly.
Sure.
So I bought the gun, and like a lot of things, especially in the firearms world, as things become more popular or a little more mass produced, kind of the quality sometimes goes down. Not necessarily like the mechanics of the gun or anything like that, but the finish wasn't anything to write home about. And I was like, I don't really like that. So I literally put it back in the box, and it sat there for like 2 years.
Yeah.
And anyways, I just got a wild hair and I can't hold still. The season had just ended. I'm like,
what do I do now?
with my hands. Yeah. What do I do with my hands?
Yeah.
Like, you're sewing, you're working,
you're
remodeling the house.
I need another project.
I need an escape, right? And so I was on YouTube. I usually watch YouTube when I'm at the gym, just like on the Stairmaster or whatever, just trying to distract myself because I hate cardio. And I saw this video from Larry Potterfield from Midway USA, and it was this like converting a Remington 1100 from a pistol grip to an English stock. Okay. Like, oh, that's interesting. So I click on the video and I'm watching it, and I'm like, well, crap, if Larry Potterfield can do it, I can do it, you know?
Why not?
Well, he's got all the really, really nice gunsmithing tools.
Sure.
I was like, heck, dude, I'll give it a go. So
yeah.
Watched the video a couple times, and then anyways, went through it in a vise, grabbed a big old bastard file and just started shaving.
I
figured after this first swipe, I couldn't go back. So
you're committed at that point.
Committed.
So I have the same gun. I have a Franke Instinct. I think I have the LX and 20 gauge, my favorite gun. Generally 20 gauges are just my favorite.
Yep.
But this fits me really well for whatever reason. But so when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening?
Dude, it turned out pretty good too. So
it looks awesome. Even the finish you put on that, it looks like just much more rich, and it looks great.
Well, it's not a baby poop lacquer finish. Yeah.
That's good way to put it. Just one more follow-up question on that. Have you ever shot an English grip before, or did you just want to try it out?
Yeah, no, most of the guns that I own are English grips.
Okay.
I've definitely, I don't know why. I don't know if it's my funky wrists or whatever, but they just seem to fit me very, very well. And I also like that I could really change at least the sight picture and the fit with that English grip. There's so much more for your hand to slide on. So if I can play with the recoil pad, I can really get guns to fit me super, super well, versus having a fixed Prince of Wales or pistol grip, whatever. And it's like all of a sudden you're reaching too far and it's just not comfortable. That English grip, it's just got so much flexibility, I guess.
Yeah.
In that. And so, most of the guns that I've hunted and shot with for the past 3 or 4 years have been English grip guns.
Okay.
So I knew that I liked it. And so I took from that, because I knew I have a red label in a 28 gauge.
Okay.
And I really had to put a pretty good size, like a 3/4 inch recoil pad on there, because the throat where my hand naturally sat, the throat of the grip was so thin. Oh. And I don't have super big hands, but I was like, this gun feels like really, really small. I love it. And it shoots great.
Yeah.
So in knowing that, I took all the measurements off of my Browning grips.
Oh, okay.
And then I matched those specs into that Franke.
Oh, wow.
Because I knew that they fit me.
Yeah. So you're like, hey, I'm going to take what fits me, what I know I like, and just kind of customize one for myself.
Exactly.
Dude, that's awesome. Way to go. So cool. So transitioning a little bit, you just had a pretty cool turkey hunt, didn't you, in California? Is that correct?
Yep. Down in California.
Awesome.
With that same 28 gauge.
I was going to ask if you took that with you or not.
I did. I'm a huge believer. Like I'm a big 20 gauge guy as well. And I understand in certain applications, certain shot sizes and whatnot make a lot of sense. But man, really any gun with the right shell, if you do your homework and you're shooting an adequate load, I mean, they're more than capable. I mean, I don't look at a 28 gauge as really being like, oh, this gun makes it a challenge. It doesn't.
Sure.
It doesn't in any way, shape or form, but I mean, through all the COVID stuff, everything on the shelves was 28 gauge. So
yeah, exactly.
That's all had a lot of shells.
That's all I see.
Anyway, so
smart thinking.
Took that gun out on its maiden voyage. I found, I think it's Apex Ammunitions, their Ninja load. It's an 1 3/8 ounce of number 8s.
Okay.
Is what the load is. And it's a tungsten load. Anyways, found a box of them, grabbed them, put the full choke in the top barrel, went out and patterned in at 40 yards. And I mean, it just threw an awesome pattern. Like, it just gave me all the confidence in the world. I'm like, there's no reason that I can't kill a bird with this.
Sure.
And so
That's the biggest thing. If you're confident with whatever it is, that's a huge difference.
confidence
No
kills.
matter what
That's
it is.
my big thing. I always say that confidence kills.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyways, went out to California. I was just west of Sacramento. I've got a friend that lives over in Fairfield, Brian Morris, really good dude. And anyways, went out there. I'm also a really big traditional bow hunter.
Okay, yeah.
So I hunt with a recurve and have for quite a while. I actually just got a compound for the first time in like 7 years.
Oh, wow.
Won't go off on that. But so anyways, we would hunt with our bows in the morning.
Sure.
And then once things kind of slowed down, once hens were laying down, toms were getting up, it was just kind of run and gun. And California has great opportunity for turkey hunting.
Oh, nice.
As far as like the cost and everything, you definitely need to have access to some property, which can be tough in California. Fortunately, my buddy is in with all the wineries and stuff. Like that.
Nice.
So I mean,
nice.
We got to hunt some great places.
Yeah.
But yeah, got out there and they have a 2-day hunting license. So went out there for I get there on Friday and then hunted Saturday and Sunday. And then we went striper fishing the next day. But anyways, I didn't kill until the second day.
Okay.
Had some close calls that first day with the bow and with the shotgun, but just couldn't quite get it done.
Yeah. Were you sitting in a blind or just up against a tree, kind of running and gunning?
So in the mornings when we were hunting with, bows, we were hunting out of blinds. Yeah. We set up blinds and set up decoys and everything like that. And had a general idea. We were going and roosting birds.
Sure.
And then hoping that on the fly down, you'd get one that come over and for some reason they just didn't want anything to do with it. They were just really, really flocked up and sticking to a couple of those hens and they just didn't want to do it. So,
yeah. Dude.
So we had to take it to them.
That's awesome. So are those Rio Grandes or are those Miriams or what birds are those?
So they have both, but they're like, it's
hybrid?
Really weird because I've hunted out. Yeah, they're like it's like a bastard turkey. Like they're like hybrids.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
So like the first morning, and I've hunted turkeys there before, and I was hunting literally at my friend's house, and he all we saw were Rios or what looked like Rios.
Sure.
But that first morning we were just hunting. There's 30 birds on the ground, and there's 15 toms or whatever, and every single bird looked different. I was in the blind with my buddy. I'm like, what the hell are wrong with these birds? He's like, oh, dude, they're like these hybrids or whatever. And anyways, I'm not like a turkey guru by any means. I love hunting them. They're like miniature elk and they help pass the time.
Yes, definitely.
But yeah, the bird that I killed definitely had some of that Rio flair, but it had those the white band.
Wow.
From the Miriams.
That's super cool.
Really pretty bird. Really pretty.
Well, congrats. That's awesome.
Oh, thanks, man.
All right. Let's transition to upland birds. A little bit different here. So being in Utah, just if anyone follows you on social media, it looks like chukar are your primary bird that you chase. Is that true? What else do you chase there?
Yeah, that's my preferred species by far. Utah's got great grouse. We have most of the grouse species. So we've got ruffs. We've got blue grouse or whatever, dusky.
They change the name all the time.
Yeah, 2020, right? Or 2021.
Yeah.
I'm sure it offended someone. Yeah. Sage grouse, and then we also have sharptail. Now, sharptail and sage, we actually have to draw permits here in Utah to be able to
really?
Very limited time, and you can only shoot 2 of each birds, basically. Okay. You're not guaranteed to draw. But since we live so close to Idaho and Wyoming, I don't even fiddle fart with Utah. I just drive an extra 30 minutes north and do that. But, early season when we're getting the dogs in better shape, obviously try to take care of them during the off season, train, condition, do all that fun stuff. But our grouse season starts in September. So in Utah, it's usually really warm. And you'll get a couple hours in the morning or in the evenings or whatever you got going on. And then most of October, I hunt sharptail grouse. I'll usually spend the entire month hunting sharptail grouse.
Okay. And that's just up in Idaho?
Up in Idaho. Okay. Yep. Yep. And then from then on, things have finally kind of cooled off. We'll sometimes we'll go out for chuckers in October, just because you just can't not. It's just too tempting.
You want to get out there, yeah.
You want to get out there, but there's snakes and different things like that, and
sure,
it's I'm just always a little bit worried about that. I know
definitely,
but
definitely,
I am. And so once things finally cool off, then it's just chuckers
all day, every day, as much as you can,
every second I can,
as much as you can. Okay, real quick on snakes. Do you like snake condition your dogs at all? Have you?
I haven't before. Nope, okay. I haven't before. I've seen some of the little trainings and whatnot. It definitely makes a lot of sense to me.
Sure.
I just. And maybe it's just because I do enjoy a lot of the variety. And I'm also a really big game hunter. So a lot of times I'm juggling deer and elk into the middle of October, November as well, depending on the different states and stuff that I'm hunting. So for the most part, when I'm really leaning into heavy on the dogs in the places that have snakes, it's usually kind of cooled off by then.
Sure. Okay. That makes sense. So what got you into hunting? Was that part of your family growing up?
No.
Dad or grandpa into it? Like, how did you just give us a snapshot of how did you get started down this huge rabbit hole?
Oh man. I don't know what it was, man. Like just at a very young age, I just loved animals, like just loved them. Like they just always, I don't know why, like we would go, for vacation, we had this motor home and we'd go to all the national parks and stuff like that as a family. And I used to buy little disposable cameras, and dude, I'd burn one of those things up on like the tame deer in like the campgrounds.
Oh,
I don't know why, but I just loved it. And I loved just, I don't know. I would draw, in the snow, I would draw animals, and I'd go jump in my grandpa's garden. I'd break off the raspberry sticks because they were all straight, and I'd make my own bows out of baling twine and willows. I grew up on a farm.
Nice. Okay.
And anyways, that transitioned into obviously having a huge desire to want to hunt, and didn't really get the opportunity to until my parents got divorced when I was 12. And so my dad, who hadn't hunted in forever, started hunting again to be able to spend time with my brother and I.
Okay.
And I obviously loved it way more than my brother did. And it was just I don't know. It was just in me. It was just like, that was something that I always like yearned for. And like, it just brought me so much fulfillment. And I think just being outside, I just like being outside. I like the solitude. I like the quiet. But yeah, I mean, it was, I think I've shared this story before probably, but growing up on a farm, it was like Saturdays or the weekends weren't for playing. They were for doing chores. But if I got my stuff done, my mom, again, I live in such a wonderful place.
Sure.
My mom would drive me to the top of these canyons and drop me off. And it was the head of this canyon that went down into all these different draws. And then they would come out in the very bottom. And then my mom would just say, "Hey, which canyon are you coming out?" And we used to go ride horses and stuff in there. So
that's awesome.
My way around. But dude, I'm 13.
Oh my gosh.
14 years old.
Sure.
Got my dog Tina, a little 20 gauge, my Sears and Roebuck 20 banger.
Oh man,
the adjustable choke tube thingy on the top.
Nice.
Still have that gun.
Oh, of course you have to.
And she just dropped me off, and then she'd drive all the way down to the bottom, and she'd sit down there and she'd read a book and wait for me to come up at the bottom with my dog, dude. And I would just walk and walk and walk.
And you had the intention of finding Chucker at that point, right?
That was
or were you just okay?
Chucker came a little bit later in my life. So I was a big grouse, big deer, big elk hunter.
Sure.
I really didn't get into Chucker until probably like 10 years ago.
Okay.
And it was, again, me just wanting to hunt every aching second of time that I have. And Utah has very generous and long seasons. So, I mean, we can hunt big game from August through December, basically.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Anyway, so I had a friend that I used to deer hunt with. And he was like, "Dude, you're into birds, you're into waterfowl. Do you ever hunt Chucker?" And I'm like, "Whoa, what is a Chucker? Like, I've never even heard of that." And I'm like 20 years old,
Sure.
And he's like, oh no, dude, these are these little devil bird things.
Yeah. You're like, what?
Describing them. I'm like, I guess we'll give those a go.
Might as well.
So I remember the first time I went out, I had labs all growing up. And so I had a lab with me, and he sends me to this area. He's like, yeah, go in here. You'll find birds. And I'm like, I drive up, I get out there, and this is really the first time I'd spent any time in like Chucker country. And I get out there and there's nothing but these super steep cliffs with nothing on them and cheatgrass. I'm like, there's birds here. Like I'm in the middle of nowhere. And just as luck would have it, I walk up the first ridge I walk up, we're walking in this kind of chute, and there's these like little rock faces. And I just see these little birds just running on the rocks like little velociraptors. I'm like, oh my gosh, those are Chucker.
That's them.
And chase them to the top, and they jump and they come flying right by me, dude. And I took it to the plug, and I didn't touch a feather. And I was like, whoa.
Okay, challenge accepted.
Game on. And it was just ass over tea kettle at that point.
Oh, 100%. That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Let's transition to your dogs a little bit. I was going to ask you if the dogs you have were your first bird dogs, but it sounds like you had some labs prior to this growing up and family dog hunting.
Yep. All growing up, I had labs, hunted over them, got into pointing dogs again later in my life. And it was basically after being introduced to Chuckers.
Okay.
My oldest dog, he'll be 10 this year. And then that's Reload. He's my white dog. And then, oh my gosh, Chief. He's my 2-year-old. And he's
okay. So he's young.
Solid liver. So yeah, he's young and wild.
Dude.
You probably heard him barking as you're sitting on.
I only heard one bark, so that's not bad. That's not bad.
6:00, he was supposed to have eaten.
Oh, sure. He's like, come on now.
He's got a built-in internal alarm clock. Dude.
They do. They totally do. And they are both GSPs, right?
Yep. Short hair.
Okay. And was that where you just kind of, when you started researching a little bit, was that just you knew what you wanted right away, or did you go through any decision process?
Oldest dog was given to me. My oldest dog was actually given to me. But I've always liked short hairs. I like the look. I like the athleticism. I like bigger running dogs. Or I guess I've grown to appreciate bigger running dogs. At the time, I was like, oh my gosh, my dog's 150 yards away. I can't see him. What do I do? Like I didn't have a GPS collar or anything like that. It's like, Reload went that way. I'll just follow. I'll just show up there. And
hopefully I find him.
And so, I love their demeanor. And I mean, every dog's a good dog if you spend time with it and get it trained up or whatever, but definitely have just been drawn to the short hairs. I kind of like that wild,
great looking dogs. They're great looking dogs.
Fire they got. So I enjoy
100%. Do you do all the training yourself? Have you used a trainer before, or what's kind of your training
I have used
process?
A trainer before. I'm definitely a novice handler, and I have a lot of hobbies, and I like doing a lot of them.
Sure.
And where I've only had the 2 pointing dogs, Reload. When I got Reload, he was a started dog.
Oh, nice.
Then when he was given to me, and he's been fantastic. And then Chief, when I got Chief, I actually had him go, I don't know if it was necessarily training, but he just got bird introduction.
Okay.
I mean, the guy is able to give him, 20, 30 birds a day.
Yeah, versus you're like 2 a week. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, I can't give that to a young dog. And so I know how important those bird contacts are, and birds make the bird dog. Right. So did that for, I think he was there for just a couple of weeks, and and that was really it. Just bought good lines, good genetics, did my research, and very, very talented dog. I mean, he makes me look good when I haven't done anything.
That's a great sign of a dog. That's a good sign. When the dog makes us look way better than we are, you hit the jackpot there.
That's what I'm hoping for every time.
That's awesome. Yeah, my youngest Brittany, he's going to a trainer in 2 weeks.
Awesome.
Same thing. I mean, I got 5 kids, hobbies, all that kind of stuff.
Totally.
And I'm like, I can get him out on a couple birds here and there, but the value of bird contacts and just, that's really it. Like if he gets birds every day, that's a win right there. So.
Well, and I look at it too, I think a lot of times guys are like ashamed to say that. It's like, oh, I sent my dog to a trainer. Well, it's like, well, here's the deal. Like,
sure,
if that dog has potential, shame on me for not bringing it out in that dog.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's like, I'm going to hunt when I'm going to hunt, and I can't expect that dog
to be caught up. Yeah.
To be caught up if he hasn't gotten the time and attention. Not that I don't want to give that to him.
Totally.
But at the end of the day, if someone's better at doing that, it's like, do you take a lot of guys take their cars to a mechanic.
Yep.
Everybody's capable of working on their car. They're nuts and bolts and wires. Everybody can do it for the most part. But we take our cars to a mechanic, right? And so I look at it as the same thing. I think, you know what? This guy can get the dog what he needs, even if it's for a limited period of time.
Sure.
But yeah, I think more people should get started dogs, if I'm honest.
Totally. Absolutely. That's great. You bypass that crazy puppy phase and saves you so much headaches. Puppies are great. They're great sometimes, but last question before we move on to a little bit more final rise in the vest. Do you have any like upland bird goals for this season coming up? Do you have any like new species you want to hunt? Do you have any goals for your dogs or anything like that? Yeah.
So I'm going to go do Himalayan snowcock this September. That's something that I've wanted to do. And it's in the middle of September, and I'm usually able to score some pretty good elk tags here and there. And so I've put it off for the past couple of years. But I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it this year.
Commit.
And,
there you go.
Yep. I'm going to go do that. And shoot, man, other than that, like I said, I get to hunt so much. I'm so lucky. I get 2 or 3 days a week. So other than that,
that's awesome.
Getting the birds and
that's great, dude. All right. So tell anyone who's listening right now, tell us a little bit about this Final Rise vest that you made about a year and a half ago now.
Yeah.
Less than that.
Yeah. So started selling them about a year and a half ago. But, anyways, I guess for anybody listening, you've probably kind of gathered, I spend a lot of time outside and I do a lot of different types of hunting.
Sure.
Being able to work in the hunting and outdoor space. I've been fortunate to be able to get my hands on some really good big game hunting gear. Now we're talking boots, packs, the camo, all those different things. Right. And so I've definitely, I've got a huge appreciation for really high-end quality gear because I understand the value of it. And I think I'm at that point in, we'll say, what my customer journey or my buyer journey or my appreciation journey as a hunter, that it's easy for me to say, I understand why this holds this value because I've come up kind of through the ranks of like, hey, I'm starting hunting. This is what I can afford, or this is what I'm able to obtain. But as you get more and more passionate about it, you start recognizing value in certain different things.
Absolutely. Right? That's well said.
It's like the first big piece for me. It's like I bought a pair of boots, right? A really nice high-end pair of boots. I bought some Cabela's Mendel Denali's. They were like $400 at the time. But every year I was spending $100 on Solomon's or whatever, which are great boots.
Sure.
But as much as I was out, I was running through them. So I'm like, well, every year I got to spend $100 to $200 or $120.
Yeah.
Why don't I just invest in a good pair of boots that I don't have to break in every year? And then those boots lasted me 6 years. And so it's like, well, I just saved myself $200, right?
Totally.
Because it's like I finally understood the value of a high-end boot.
Right.
And so it's kind of the same for upland gear. And that's kind of where Final Rise stemmed from. There's so many great pack companies out there, even in the upland space as well. There's some really great companies out there. And, and a lot of it's very, not necessarily recent. There was definitely a couple big players in that space, and they were kind of the tried and trues, and they kind of just sat there as a pair on the top, right? And no one was really coming into the space. And where I work so heavy on the big game side of things, I'm watching all this innovation happening. I'm watching new materials and fabrics and components, design features, all these different things are happening in hunting packs and camo and this stuff. And I'm like, and then I look at the upland space that I love so much, and I'm like, nothing's changing. Like, hey, this is the same. And that doesn't mean that necessarily has to, right?
Sure.
But it's like, but if there's an opportunity to improve, why not? Why not try to make it better? Why not raise that bar or try to raise that bar?
Right.
And so, and the other thing was availability, right? There's some great companies out there, but how good is it if you can't get your hands on it or whatever? So I knew there was a demand there. I'm like, you know what? Like, if anything, hopefully I provide a solution. Hopefully I provide an option to make a good pack. It doesn't need to be my pack, but as long as maybe I'll push that person to kind of wake up and start doing a little bit more. And at the end of the day, that helps the entire Upland community, right? I have a full-time job. I'm fortunate to have a great job. When I started doing this, it was like, oh, it'd be sweet if I could pay for a couple out-of-state hunts every year.
Sure.
And it's definitely grown to be a little bit more, but at the end of the goal and the real purpose behind Final Rise is to raise that bar. I feel like that, rising tides lift all ships, right? So there's a lot of other boats or companies in this Upland port that we're using this analogy as,
sure.
Right? Hey, if we kind of push on each other, competition's a good thing. That's healthy.
Yeah.
It drives innovation, right? That's what helps everything improve.
Sure.
And so whether I'm poking the bear or whatever, kind of what I'm trying to do. I feel like there's so many people that are so passionate about bird hunting that they want the quality gear. They understand the value of it, but it's not obtainable or it's not there or it's not being made or whatever that is. And so, so when we set out to design the vest, obviously there's some great strap vests out there.
Sure.
A strap vest is a strap vest, right? Just like a car has four wheels, it's going to be waist belt and shoulder harness. Mm-hmm. But there were a couple things, and coming from that backpacking space, I'm like, I really know how a backpack is supposed to fit and carry and balance, where you're supposed to load things in that pack so that it does balance properly, so that it is comfortable. And so I look at all this stuff on these high-end big game packs, and then I look at what was available in the Upland space. I'm like, I'm going to build a bridge. I'm going to take all this stuff that I understand the value.
What you know from over here.
What I know from over here and understand how it works. And I'm going to bring it over here and put it in a strap vest.
Yeah.
And so that was one of the big differentiators, I would guess, that if you were comparing our vest against some of the other great products that are out there.
Sure.
The foundation of a strap vest is the waist belt, right? That's the entire purpose of a strap vest, is to be able to alleviate the pressure or the tension that's on your shoulder straps. Well, you cannot do that if you don't have a weight-bearing waist belt. Now, that phrase gets used all the time, Will. You see it thrown around. It's like, oh, this is a weight-bearing waist belt. Well, is it really? Does it actually have the capacity to tighten down? Does it have the right shape? Does it have the right materials? There's all these different things that factor up, and it's kind of just become this buzzword. Oh, weight-bearing waist belt. It's like
everything has a weight-bearing belt.
Right. Yep. But does it really?
Right.
And so again, using some of those, the design features and things that I really liked and putting my own spin on because we're sewing them ourselves.
Right. You're like, I can create my ideal vest.
I'll just make it my way.
Yeah.
And so we brought that over. So definitely our waist belt, the lumbar pad, and that design foundation, it's the foundation of our, And I feel like it's really what separates our pack from anything else out there.
100%. You answered like 40 questions in that little segment there. So that was amazing. But I have a couple more that popped in my head. One, just a comment. I was going to say my two favorite features. So I had the vest. I was maybe, I don't know, a couple months after you got it. I was on the list. I got my vest.
Yep.
Two favorite features are that lumbar pad in the back. Super comfortable. I had some back issues late this fall, and this thing was super comfortable. And the other thing is the shell pockets. I know people can't see this, but my mitts are huge. And one of my biggest things was sometimes I have gloves on, sometimes I don't when I'm hunting.
Totally.
And I just couldn't get my hand in certain vest pockets. And I'll carry my phone in one, shells in the other, whatever. So I'm in the pockets a decent amount of time. So anyways, more just a comment. Those are my personal two favorite features. So you talk about competition is good for a product like this. I totally agree. Did you, just more of a curiosity thing, did you know other companies were coming out around that same time, or did you just kind of think you were the only one at the time?
No, dude, I totally thought I was the only one. It's funny. So I had sewn a couple of these packs for some buddies, and we'd been playing around with them, and it was just like, hey, I know how to sew. I've got the materials. I'll just make them and we'll just see what happens. We did that and everything was fine. And anyways, I got a picture from a friend, and it was from social media, and they're like, hey, I talked to him on the phone. He's like, hey, is this your vest? I'm like, no, what is that? And I get looking at him like, well, no shit. So I get looking into him like, oh, there's like 3 other people that are. So there goes my Netflix $1 million idea.
Yeah.
No, but it was a good thing. And it honestly definitely pushed me to do it, if I'm being honest, dude, because I was kind of on the edge. I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't need to do it. Sure. It wasn't a necessity. But I think, just as a human being and just as a guy, we kind of have that desire to have something of our own someday, right? Yeah. I think it kind of burns inside all of us. And anyway, so it kind of pushed me. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go talk to one of the owners of the company of Mountain Ops. And I said, hey, this is something that I can do in the evenings. I know how to sew. I want to try this or whatever, Dude,
because it was awesome watching you and your wife sew those vests and that first getting ready for that first fall. Oh, dude, I would like tune in every night to see if there's like any updates or how late you were staying up sewing these things. Highly entertaining though.
I'm glad someone was entertained.
I would show my wife, I'm like, babe, look at these people. He's sewing vests at midnight. I was like, she's like, why? I'm like, because it's August and September's coming up.
It was a grind, man. And it's been a grind. It's been a huge blessing, man. It's been like so humbling. How many people have, yourself included, right? I mean, you were one of the first guys to kind of jump on and support us. And I did not anticipate that. Like I said, I was like, man, if I could just make a couple product of these and hunt out of state a little bit more, I'd be stoked.
Totally. Well, honestly, it's not only a great product, but I mean, you've been great to work with. I had a ton of questions. I mean, I'm a 6'5", 220 guy, and I was worried about like sizing and all that, and you were messaging me all the time like, hey, go with this, I think you'll be fine here. Just that, I mean it's a small company, like you were very relational and just working through that with everyone, I'm sure. So that means a lot, and so that's a product that I can easily get behind. So
thank you, man. I think
awesome.
I don't know, I always try to customer service, like I always think about that. Like I feel like in today's world, like that really has to be, you have to have a good product, but that's like the backbone of business right now, I feel, because so much of that gets outsourced, and it's like, there's no one that cares about these vests more than I do. And so it's like, there's no one else I'd rather be answering a customer's question than me.
Oh yeah. You're like,
I'm so excited about it.
I'm going to give them the right answer. Of course.
and ultimately that's kind of been a huge, I think a huge part of the success, honestly.
That's awesome.
Hopefully provide a quality experience for everybody
you're definitely doing that. Last thing on the Final Rise vest. And then I have just a series of rapid fire questions, and then we're going to wrap up. Talk about the new turkey seat you just came out with. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So initially when I designed the Final Rise vest, and maybe this is a little context outside of the turkey seat, but I'll go back to the turkey seat. I'll wrap that into it. My goal when I created the vest was to create a foundation, a foundational system that any hunter could take and spin that into making theirs, right? That's really, I feel like, so key, because anybody that's listening to this podcast, you have your way of doing things, right? You like your handheld in a certain place. You like your shell pockets here. You like this, that's just how we are. We don't want to be pushed into this little box. And so I wanted to create a foundation that had those modular options built into it, or the capability of being having other things added to it. And so having the foresight initially from the initial design concept was, what other things can this vest do? What do I want to design this vest to be able to do so that it can be more applicable in more things? And the turkey seat's obviously one of those. But my big thing is, as I look at that, and again, back to that foundation, like, I understand that a vest is an investment. Like if you're spending $300 on a vest, I understand that that's an investment. And so my goal is to make something that you can use for more than just a couple months out of the year. And I know there's a lot of crossover, a lot of bird hunters turkey hunt, a lot of us fly fish, a lot of us big game hunt. So I'm like, I want to make a pack that can do all of that. Obviously it will excel in the upland space, in any upland application. from the west to the east, wherever you want to take it. But having something that can just be an absolute workhorse piece of gear so that it's more comfortable to that end consumer to say like, yeah, I'm going to invest in this because I do X, Y, Z, and that pack can do every single one.
Do a little bit of everything. Exactly.
So we came out with the turkey seat. And again, our goal with any piece of gear that we come out with is it's all about function. I say all function, no fluff. I say that all the time.
That's awesome.
But it's like, I want the product to be more than just a pad that you can sit on, right? And so we found a way to be able to attach the seat to the pack, and then it actually can flip back up and become basically a cradle or a harness, if you will, to be able to carry additional gear. Whether that's a decoy, a blind chair, a ground blind, and still have room in your game bag. Because once you put a turkey in there, it's full.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's a big bird.
But you have enough gear on you. Usually it's like when I'm running and gunning, I've always got at least one decoy with me.
Sure.
And so again, just being able to create something that has more than one function that brings out more value in that product. That's really our goal with everything that we design and create.
Well, that's great, man. That's great. I saw those turkey pictures with your Tom this spring, and it looked great in that bag. It looked great. Well. I like those new color combos too. Those are pretty sweet.
Thank you.
Okay, couple rapid fire questions. I'm going to kind of if this or that. So if not a GSP, what's your second favorite breed of choice?
Oh, English pointer.
Okay, I was not expecting that. Nice.
Yep.
You kind of already answered this, maybe a little bit, but what gun are you carrying out into the Chucker Hills?
Whatever one comes out of my hand when I reach into the safe. If there's one thing I collect, it's shotguns, and I've got a lot of them.
That's awesome.
A lot of them, but I enjoy. I've got a Browning Featherlight. God, what is it? The super feather. What they combine? Anyways, it's a 16 gauge.
Okay.
English stock. It's like right at 6 pounds.
Oh wow.
That's my baby.
That's the one right there. That is the one. So
if I peek in the case, my hand will usually wander.
Go to that one. All right. See, I knew we'd get there eventually. We had to kind of push it a little bit. Just a couple more. Solo hunt with just you and your dog, or a hunt with a couple buddies?
That is tough, dude. I feel like both are very, very important. But I would definitely rather share a day in the hills with my buddies.
Nice.
I've got some damn good friends, so I'm very grateful for them and enjoy being around them.
That's awesome. Okay, two more. Favorite upland bird to hunt? I think we all know. Chucker. Okay, that's a softball. Here's a tough one. I just came up with this as we were talking. Okay, Chucker or elk?
Chucker. Chucker.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah. I've been asked before if you had to give up fly fishing, big game hunting, or if you had all three and you could only do one, what would it be? And it would be upland hunting. I'd give up the other two to hunt birds for sure.
That's awesome.
For sure.
That's awesome. Well, dude, how can people get a hold of you if they have questions about Final Rise or anything like that?
Yes, you can visit us online at finalrise.com. Same on social media. My cell phone is listed on either of those. So when you call in, people call and they're expecting to get some
that's
operator.
Awesome.
I'm just like, hello. And they're like, is this Final Rise? I'm like, yeah, this is Matt.
Yep.
So call me, text me. A lot of people text me. Always happy to help any way that I can. So yeah, finalrise.com. Check us out.
That's incredible. Way to go, man. Well, you've built a hell of a vest and a hell of a company. So thank you for doing that, just for the whole Upland community. I know I appreciate it for sure. And also thanks for jumping on here and talking dogs and hunting and a little bit of everything tonight.
I appreciate it. Well,
I really appreciate it. Awesome. Thanks so much, Matt.
Yep, be good.
All right, take care. Well, that is a wrap for episode 5 of the Upland Rookie Podcast. Thank you so much again for choosing to join me on this episode. I really enjoyed that conversation with Matt, and I hope you did as well. Don't forget to share this episode with a friend. Share it with your mom, your dad, your cousin, your neighbor, coworker, brother, sister, aunts, uncles, whoever it might be. I don't care. If you think they would enjoy this content, share the episode link with them, share the social media link, whatever it might be. Help this reach more people. Also, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I always am loving to talk hunting or bird dogs, no matter the breed, no matter your situation. Would love to talk with you. Reach out to me on Instagram at the Upland Rookie Podcast or at Upland_Brits. Remember, if you're not lucky enough to hunt with or own a Brittany, any bird dog is better than no bird dog. Go put some miles on those boots. See you next week.